Right now, as you read these words, who knows that you are thinking? You might answer quickly, "It's me, of course." But slow down a little. That I you just mentioned, is it thinking, or is it knowing how to think? Nisargadatta Maharaj once said, with brutal simplicity, the most dangerous thing is not ignorance, but the complete lack of awareness that you are ignorant. Most people live their whole lives inside their thoughts, dragged along by memories, anxieties, hopes, fears, plans, comparisons, but have never truly asked, who is seeing all of that? You are taught to improve your thinking. You are taught to control your emotions. You are taught to build a better, stronger, smarter self. But Nisargadatta Maharaj, standing within the Advaita Vedanta tradition, is not concerned with making the ego better. He does something far more radical. He points directly at the illusion that you are the ego. This article is not intended to provide you with another belief system, not for you to memorize quotes, not for you to feel more understood. Its sole purpose is to bring your attention back to where you have never left, the one who knows. The most fundamental human illusion, I am the thought. If I ask you, who are you? Most likely your answer will come up in the form of thoughts. I am the person reading this. I am a spiritual seeker. I am a person who wants enlightenment. I am this body. Let me be blunt, in the spirit of Nisargadatta Maharaj. All of that is thought, and you cannot be what you are knowing. Thoughts always have three characteristics. They come, they stay for a while, they disappear. If you are a thought, then when the thought disappears, you must disappear with it. But clearly, when there is no thought, you are still present. Even in the most empty moment, there is something that knows that nothing is happening. Nisargadatta Maharaj calls this confusion the root of all suffering. You suffer because you believe that you are something vulnerable. The mind creates an image of I, then assigns it ownership. My thoughts, my feelings, my body. But look closer. If there is mine, then there must be a me independent of it. What possesses the thought? Or is it only the thought that claims ownership? In Advaita Vedanta, this is called false identification. You don't suffer because of life. You suffer because you believe that the story in your head is you. Maharaj doesn't tell you to destroy the thought. He doesn't ask you to silence your mind. He simply gently, but relentlessly, asks you, who knows this thought? And if you are brave enough not to answer with thought, if you are honest enough to remain in ignorance, a door will begin to open. Not a door to new knowledge, but a door to your own primordial nature. You are not the thought. You are the knowing space. Let me say this clearly, slowly, and read it not as an idea, but as a direct invitation. You are not the thought. You are the knowing thing that thinks. This distinction sounds simple, but it is the boundary between sleep and wakefulness, between suffering and freedom. Observe this very familiar experience. A thought arises within you. It could be a memory, a worry, a desire, or even a spiritual thought like, I am progressing. As soon as the thought arises, something knows that it has arisen. That knowing thing does not comment, does not object. It simply knows. Nisargadatta Maharaj often uses very ordinary images to illustrate this. He said, thoughts are like clouds, and you are the sky. Clouds can be black or white, beautiful or ugly, come quickly or go slowly, but the sky is never harmed by clouds. You've become accustomed to living as if you were a cloud. You believe that every thought is I, every emotion is I, every reaction is I. But stop and ask yourself, without needing an answer, if I am truly a thought, then how can I see the thought? No object can see itself as an object. A knife cannot cut its own blade. A fire cannot burn itself. Only the observer can see the observed object. So when you see a thought, clearly you are not a thought. What Maharaj points out is not a special state. It is not a mystical emptiness. It's not an ecstatic experience. It's a very ordinary, very close, very obvious presence, so much so that you overlook it. Right now, as you read these words, there are words, there is meaning, there is a responding thought, but before all that, there is a still space in which everything is happening. That space has no shape, no age, no history, no future. It doesn't say, I am knowing. It is simply knowing. Maharaj calls it pure knowingness. You don't need to create it. You don't need to attain it. You don't need to hold on to it. You have never left it. The only problem is that you've placed your attention in the wrong place, on the content of the thought, instead of the space containing all the thoughts. When you begin to see this clearly, a very subtle but fundamental change occurs. Thoughts still come, emotions still come, life still goes on, but there is no one there to be swept away. The knowing space doesn't fight. The knowing space doesn't need control. The knowing space doesn't need healing. It was free before the problem arose. Who knows? The ego-breaking question. Here, I invite you to enter the true heart of Advaita Vedanta. Not an answer, but a question that, if asked correctly, will burn away the entire structure of the ego. Who knows? Be very careful here. This is not a question for the mind to answer. If you answer, it is I, it is consciousness, it is the soul, it is the true self, then you have fallen back into thought. Nisargadatta Maharaj warns very clearly, any answer you may give is not you. The question, who knows, is not aimed at finding a new object. It is aimed at turning the arrow of attention back to the very source of attention. Normally, your attention is always directed outward, knowing sounds, knowing images, knowing thoughts, knowing emotions. For the first time, Maharaj asks you to do the complete opposite. Backhand index pointing right, let your attention return to what you are knowing. But immediately, the mind will panic. It will say, I see nothing, empty, vague, nothing to cling to. And at that very moment, you are at the threshold of truth. The ego only exists when there is an object. When there is nothing to cling to, it disintegrates. Maharaj says, the seeker cannot find himself, because the seeker is what needs to be seen as unreal. When you ask, who is knowing? And if you don't chase after the answer, don't try to understand, don't try to grasp, then a profound stillness occurs. It's not that you stop thinking, it's that thinking no longer has a center to revolve around. There is no separate observer. There is only knowing. No one says, I am present. There is only presence. No one says, I am awake. There is only awareness. This is why Nisargadatta Maharaj emphasizes, backhand index pointing right, stay with the feeling of I am, but don't attach any content to it. Not, I am the body, I am the mind, I am the soul, I am the enlightened one. Just, I am. And even, in the end, even I am fades away, giving way to the nameless, but which has never been absent. I am, the only gateway to truth. In the entirety of Nisargadatta Maharaj's teachings, if you had to choose a single point to cling to, not as a belief, but as an anchor of attention, it would be, backhand index pointing right, I am. Not, I am this. Not, I am that. Just I am. Most people, when they say I, implicitly add a series of attributes. I am this body. I am the one thinking. I am the one seeking truth. But Maharaj cuts off all the rest. He says, before you know anything, you know that you exist. This feeling of existence comes before name, nationality, belief, spiritual knowledge. It requires no effort, no thinking, no imagination. You cannot fail to know that you exist. And it is this obvious, even commonplace, fact that is the deepest door, Maharaj doesn't teach you meditation in the conventional sense. He doesn't tell you to focus on your breath, chakras, or sacred images. He simply says, stay with the feeling of I am. Do nothing more. But the mind cannot tolerate that simplicity. It wants to make I am special. I am light. I am love. I am cosmic consciousness. I am God. And at that very moment, you have left the door. I am is not a metaphysical statement. It is not a positive affirmation. It is not a mantra. It is the naked sensation of existence, before any definition. What happens when you dwell in I am? No fireworks, no dazzling light, no ecstatic experience, only a profound stillness. Thoughts still arise, but they no longer have power. Emotions still come, but they are no longer central. Life continues, but there is no one there to possess it. Maharaj said something that shocked many. Stay with I am until even I am dissolves. This doesn't mean you disappear. On the contrary, all illusions about who you are disappear. When I am dissolves, what remains cannot be named, cannot be grasped, cannot be possessed, but it was never absent. And from that point on, life is no longer lived from the ego, but from masterless freedom, the mind, AI, and modern misconceptions. We are living in a unique era. For the first time in history, humans have created something that can process language, analyze data, and so a new question arises. Does AI have consciousness? Is AI aware? This question only arises because humans do not yet fully understand themselves. Nisargadatta Maharaj, though living before the age of AI, pointed out the core truth long ago. The human mind, without consciousness, is merely a processing machine. The mind compares, remembers, analyzes, predicts. AI does exactly the same, even faster. But both the human mind and AI have one thing in common: backhand index pointing right. They only process what is already known. They don't know that they are processing. The biggest confusion of our time is intelligence is confused with awareness. Smartness is confused with consciousness. Processing information is confused with knowing. An AI can say, I am thinking. A human can also say, I am thinking. But the question Maharaj asks is, who is aware that there is thinking? The AI cannot ask that question, and most humans would never ask it. This is why Maharaj says, consciousness is not a product of the mind. The mind arises in consciousness. AI can simulate answers about enlightenment. The human mind can memorize thousands of spiritual quotes, but none of that is mindfulness. Mindfulness is not content. It is the space in which all content appears. If you live entirely from the mind, you are no different from AI and nature, only in complexity. The only difference between humans and AI lies not in intelligence, but in the ability to turn back and know what you already know. When you identify with thought, you live like a biological algorithm. When you dwell in I am, you live as the source of all awareness. This is not a criticism of the mind. The mind is a wonderful tool, but the tool is not the master. AI does not suffer. AI does not fear death. AI does not seek enlightenment. Only humans, because humans mistake themselves for the mind, and only humans have the ability to escape that confusion. Life is a knower, not a thinker. When you stop living as a thinker, a natural question arises. How will life function then? Nisargadatta Maharaj's answer is simple and liberating. Life continues. Only the owner of life disappears. You still wake up, work, talk, love, but there is no longer an inner voice saying, am I doing it right? Am I good enough? Does this define who I am? Action arises from clarity, not from fear. The thinker always acts to protect their image, reinforce their ego, avoid suffering, seek security. The knowing person has no image to protect, When you live as a knowing person, thoughts arise, become known. Emotions arise, become known. Reactions arise, become known. No judgment, no interference, no assimilation, and strangely enough, backhand index pointing right actions become more precise, not less so, because they are no longer distorted by fear, ambition, self-defense, inferiority complex. Maharaj once said, "When there is no one to do, everything is done perfectly." Living as a knowing person doesn't mean becoming passive. It's not abandoning life. It's full participation without the burden of ego. You speak, but don't need to prove it. You love, but don't need to possess. You act, but you don't need to control the outcome. Life becomes very simple, not because the problems disappear, but because there is no one there to call them my problems. Here, humility arises naturally, not humility due to morality, but because there is no longer an ego to be arrogant about. And here too, love becomes pure, not love as an emotion, but undivided love. You don't need to call it enlightenment. You don't need to call it awakening. You don't need to call it the true self. Backhand index pointing right, just live from a place where there is no more confusion. Namaste.